Bible prophecy is active and unfolding daily. Zechariah 12, Isaiah 17, Psalm 83, Ezekiel 38. Here is what the LameStream Media is not telling you. Shalom, my friends. Welcome to this week's newscast. From the Associated Press, Israel's Security Cabinet decided early last Tuesday to remove the metal detectors that it installed a week earlier in response to the Arab attack that killed 2 Israeli police guards on the Temple Mount. The metal detectors are to be replaced by sophisticated technology involving cameras that can detect hidden objects. More on that in a moment. But from Ynet News, Muslims in East Jerusalem began celebrating last Wednesday evening as Israeli security forces dismantled all security infrastructure installed at the Temple Mount entrances. All metal detectors and cameras were removed last Tuesday. And now all scaffolding for the security cameras has been removed as well. But then riots broke out inside the Temple Mount compound last Thursday evening after Muslims returned to pray there, with many young people throwing stones and bottles at IDF security forces who responded with crowd dispersal measures. There was a folk singer back in the 60s, a guy named Donovan, who had a song once that went, "First there is a mountain, then there is no mountain, then there is." Kind of reminds me of the Temple Mount situation. Now, last Thursday on Vimeo, we studied the book of Joel. And I have to tell you, my friends, I keep watching it over and over again, and I cannot believe how my eyes are being opened to the absolute relevance to world conditions today, which are being delivered in that book. Recent walk in the Word, I was saying, you don't even forget about Bible prophecy and all that stuff. Just look at the world conditions today, and you can see that we are at, I don't know, the end of the road, at the door of the tribulation period, the second coming of Mashiach. And Joel, is all about the 7-year tribulation and the following 1,000-year millennium, and everything that it's describing about the horrific conditions that will be seen during the 7-year tribulation are already appearing today. Joel describes very clearly how the food sources, grains, fruits, oil, meats, and vegetables, are all depleted of any nutrition. That is so obvious today. I mean, it was obvious 50 years ago, and there were people shouting about it. By the way, there was a great book back then that had a lot of the old remedies. It's a book called Back to Eden by Jethro Kloss. A real handy book to have around the house for health remedies that are not so intrusive. Forgive me for getting off the track, but I had that book way back when, and I really liked it a lot, and I just remembered it and ordered a new copy. I suggest you do the same. But, you know, there were people like that 50 years ago shouting about this, and, you know, many people tried to pay attention, but, you know, what are you going to do? We've learned to buy our food from grocery stores. Anyway, Joel's talking about this and what it said about the cattle and the sheep Man, I'm telling you, that one just floored me. Joel chapter 1 verse 18 reads, "The herds of cattle are perplexed, and they huddle together because they have no pasture." Now, can't you just see it? You know, they're just corralled into, I don't even know what goes on. I've never seen it, but I'm sure it's really ugly. According to a 2013 report from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, more than 90,000 cows are slaughtered each and every day. That's more than 32 million cows each year in America alone. So, you know, that's what Joel's talking about. And Joel's describing the tribulation. The second half of Joel 1:18 continues, and it says, "Even the flocks of sheep suffer punishment. They are forsaken and suffer greatly." You know, when you picture 90,000 cows a day to slaughter, there's no compassion going on. This is not the way it was throughout all of history, my friends, where people raised animals and loved them. And, you know, when they did slaughter them for food, there was nothing ugly about it. Well, for the past half century and much more than that, things have been going on that lead up to what we're being told about. It's just, it just hit me really heavy. If you haven't watched Joel, it's over on my Vimeo channel. It won't be on YouTube for another 6 months, and that's assuming that I haven't been taken up in the rapture, you know. Anyway, as I pointed out in my Walking in the Word video, number 9, might have been number 10, we don't even need to look at Bible prophecy, just look at the world conditions. And it's plain to see that the world is fast approaching a non-sustainable state of affairs. Another thing that hit me was chapter 1, verse 3, which tells us to be sure to tell our children and their children and the generation that follows them about the horrific battles of the 7-year tribulation. That means that those locusts and all the events of Elohim's wrath will be taught and talked about all throughout the 1,000-year millennium. I never thought about that before. And this Thursday, 2 days from now, on Vimeo and on YouTube study on Genesis will pause until the following Thursday on August 10th. We'll resume our studies there on Genesis. But this coming Thursday, I'm presenting a video, and this is something different. It's an addendum to my 2017 Rapture update. If you haven't watched that, I'll be encouraging you to watch that before this coming Thursday's update. But I'm doing something different because in my 2017 Rapture update, I mentioned to people, you know, this is a list of things, prophecies that are telling us, you know, we're at the door. And I said, you probably have a list of your own. And there's so many that, you know, I couldn't get them all in one video. But those of you who are on my channels a lot, especially on Vimeo, you'll know who Caregiver is. Now, she gave me, kind of like she wrote a letter to all of us, sharing her list. So I'm going to be delivering Caregiver's list, speaking on her behalf, and delivering her list to you for her. You won't want to miss it. That's going to be some fun. Now, turning to wars and rumors of wars. Can you believe this? For the very first time in more than 3 years of reporting every Tuesday, for the first time, I have nothing to report regarding wars and rumors of wars. Nothing that concerns Israel, at any rate. Curious. Now, turning to our Intifada update from Ynet News. The Islamists who incited and ignited the metal detector crisis at the Temple Mount last week wanted an Intifada, and they have not given up their wish just yet. Turkish President Erdogan, as he's done before, is leading the anti-Israel religious incitement in his speeches and behind the scenes. Erdogan wants to be the leader of political Islam in the Middle East, the leader of all the Muslim Brotherhood movements with which both Hamas and Sheikh Raed Salah's Islamic movement in Israel are affiliated. Those are the people who are interested in a continuation of the Temple Mount riots, and they're hoping for more deaths and injuries in the coming days to inflame the Palestinian and Islamist streets once again. Now, on Friday, July 28th, from the Times of Israel, a 24-year-old Palestinian rushed at IDF soldiers with a knife at the Gush Etzion Junction in the West Bank and was shot dead. Further, Palestinian rioting was reported in several locations throughout the West Bank, including Bethlehem and Hebron. Now, looking at our review of last week's news, Israel's Security Cabinet decided early last Tuesday to remove the metal detectors it installed a week earlier in response to the Arab attack on the Temple Mount. All scaffolding for the security cameras has been removed as well. Riots broke out inside the Temple Mount compound, with many young people throwing stones and bottles at IDF security forces. A 24-year-old Palestinian rushed at IDF soldiers with a knife at the Gush Etzion Junction in the West Bank and was shot dead. And Palestinian rioting was reported in several locations throughout the West Bank. And that, my friends, is what the LameStream Media is not telling you. Abba willing, I'll see you here again next week. Until then, stay safe. Shalom.
Crowded rooms, I need more space than I consume. Enough is time alone with you, underneath a naked moon, sharing confidential moods and making chatter. Mockingbird nocturnal sings notations of eternal things, entering the quantum breeze, flying not for want of wings. He lights his gaze on you and me, simply because we matter.